Hi friends, it's Carly and I'm back again with another review. We are still working our way through the Ghostbusters Plasma series, and of course it makes sense that this figure would round out the series perfectly to this point, the same way that he rounded out the team. So today we are looking at Winston Zeddemore, and finally, you guys, we have our blast accessory. So let's get a good look at that. He looks really cool. This is what we have been talking about this entire series, what I have been talking about being the biggest miss for me as far as this entire line to this point, that Hasbro really dropped the ball in my opinion on blast accessories, and now we finally have one. The question is it enough? Why didn't the rest come with it? We'll take a closer look at how it actually is put together in just a second, but I'm really excited to see this. This is what we've been waiting for all along since the very beginning. So I'm gonna go ahead and show him up close, Winston, played by Ernie Hudson, who is so amazing. If you're a Ghostbusters fan, you know that Ernie is still huge in the convention circuit. He goes to so many conventions every year. He's amazing with his fans. He signs autographs. He's still just so in tune to Ghostbusters culture. It's just another way that this movie has become so near and dear to my heart, because it seems like every single piece of the puzzle was perfectly put together to make it last for as many decades as it has. Just great people, great actors putting together a great legacy, and Ernie Hudson as Winston Zeddemore definitely is a huge part of that. So he was the last member of the team, which is why I saved him for last amongst the figures. And I say, you know, he rounded out the Ghostbusters, and with this blast accessory that we have here, he's really rounding out the series of figures for me as well. So this is really hard to kind of show with it all assembled. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. I'll show you how it works. It literally is just a rubberized tube that slides over the end of the neutrino wand. So we'll look at the blast accessory first, because I'm really interested in a couple of things with this. First of all, the color combination is fantastic. It's exactly what I think it should be. I think in the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters, we had several different blast effects on each of the different characters. Somebody will have to check with me on that. I'm about to review those retro figures, so I'll see when I look at them. But I feel like the cartoon had different color blast effects, but the movie, I think they were all the same. Regardless, one way or another, this is a really cool looking effect. It's got a almost lightsaber-like center. It's a little bit wibbly, meaning it's wavy like this, and it's got a soft, stretchy, rubberized overlay that fits right over the end here and sort of gives it a moving effect. So there's a lot more to it than I've seen with other blast accessories, but when you think about what you would use this for, it kind of begs the question, why did they put so much, you know, sort of motility into it? Like, it's nice that it does that, and you can sort of adjust, you know, there's different ways to like pull this end through different portions and sort of move it around, but for the most part, when you're posing or taking a photograph, this is going to be static. So when I looked at this, when I saw this accessory, I felt immediately like, okay, well, this is pretty intricate, so it kind of makes sense why they didn't do it for every single figure, although not completely, because it still seems like such a critical part of this series. And also, I think this is one where I would be willing to pay $22.99 instead of $19.99 if every single one of the figures came with their little accessory and this. Now, Winston here only comes with this, so he doesn't have a small accessory like the others. It seems like that should have been pretty easy to do though. But what I'm getting at is that the extreme motility and movement isn't really great for posing, and it seems like if they would have scaled it back just a little bit, maybe just making this the blue portion, a hard plastic mold that fit up against the central blast, I think they could have made this more affordable and made it a part of each figures package. So while I'm really excited to see this, I feel like this particular piece isn't so great as an individual accessory that it convinces me they couldn't have scaled it back and provided it for all 4 of the characters. That said, is your girl someone who's going to go out and hunt down 3 more Winstons so that all of my figures have an accessory? Probably. So there you have it. I'll probably end up with all of them anyway. Let's get on to Winston himself. We will take a closer look at his facial sculpt, and you know, guys, these have really been just epic for me. I have not, I don't think, understated at all how much I love these facial sculpts and how beautifully executed they really have been. It's just such a great tribute to the characters, and the figures themselves look more lifelike than a lot of movie figures I've seen. I do a lot of Marvel Legends reviews, and a lot of those MCU sculpts aren't wonderful for me. So these are really just a treat, a pleasant surprise. They look absolutely amazing. And we've got then the same accessories we've seen with the other 3 Ghostbusters, the Proton Pack, which I will go through again. This time I put it in his hand so we can sort of see how he can hold it. It's a little bit awkward to fit across both hands in a forward shooting motion. Holding it to the side is a little bit easier, or holding it one-handed. I had a little bit of trouble actually fitting the wand in both hands and posing it forward because of the length of it and the width of the wand right here being just a little bit too big in circumference to fit into his closed hand. So I worked with it. It isn't horrible. I feel like this is a good look. It'll look good on the shelf, but there were a few issues with that there. And I imagine that the hand sculpts are the same for each of the 4 Ghostbusters. So we'll probably have that with all 4 of them as well. But let's go ahead and take this out. And let's make sure I get a good look at the Proton Pack, which is the same, but you never know when somebody's entering the video series, just to take a look at all of the details. And I finally was able to use this little notch here on this peg to properly display the wand, to store the wand on the Proton Pack. So I finally got that worked out thanks to attentive viewers who were able to guide me in the right direction. Thank you guys so much. Now we'll look at how to take this off. On the side here, he's got a small button that just pops off like that. We have no issues with this Winston harness, so it fits right along the waist where it should. With our last figure, it was a little bit wonky. The figure before that, his belly was so big it wouldn't work. This is perfect fit. It sits exactly where it should. The button stays snapped when I snap it and is very secure. And when we take it off, I forgot to show the pin. So right here we've got the peg that goes into a hole in his back that gives a little bit of extra security and anchoring to his back. And then we just simply lift the harness over his head and slide it over his arm to take it off. So it's been a really easy accessory to acclimate to get used to, and to fit on the characters and remove from the characters. Aside from the couple little issues we've had with just the body sculpt and maybe a little bit of one-off detail in the manufacturing of a couple of them, it's a great accessory and it's easy to manipulate. Worst comes to worst, you can remove that plastic harness, that rubbery harness, the green one, and still have the peg. The pegs are solid. So the pegs on all of them were great. If you're having trouble with your harness, I say just get rid of the thing and use the peg, and you should be just fine with the display on that. So now we will go through our usual points of articulation. Now, when I was talking, when I was doing my last video, I do not know how I have overlooked this, but I just got a comment pointing out something that I have missed in every single one of these figures, and I'm going to show you what it is, and I'm going to talk about how it works. And again, we'll have to find out who made that comment and thank them so much. So when we start at the top, as I love to do, we always have to make sure the head turns 360 degrees, because you never know what kind of hauntings they'll be dealing with. They could be possessed at any time, and we might want them to be able to pose that way. So the 360 is great. This one, here's what we get for looking up. It really isn't much. His hairline is impeded by his collar there. So we're looking at from here, this is sort of center, to here. It's very slight. Head on, you get a good idea that he's looking up, but the amount of movement isn't great for me. I'm not loving that. And down is pretty good. I'm okay with the downward motion, but for the most part, these figures are looking straight on at you. So here's what I have missed with every single one of these that I cannot believe. And hopefully when we look head on, we can see why. And I honestly don't even know how this person caught it. I must have just had the last figure up in a certain way. So what I missed was the butterfly joints here in the shoulder. So I've been showing the lateral motion, which I always do, the turning here at the shoulder, the turning at the bicep 360, which is great, the double jointed elbows, which look a little funny from the side, a little squared off, but great from the front, which is probably how they'll usually be posed, the 360 in the wrist, the side to side motion in the wrist, which is, let's see, it goes like this, up and down. So we've got a motion that's like this rather than like this, which I thought was a little bit strange, but it worked with the neutrino wand. So I have really no complaints now that I've put it through those paces. But now we see we also have a butterfly joint. And if you're not familiar with what a butterfly joint is, it's really exactly what it sounds like. It's a joint in the shoulder here that will allow them to hyperextend backwards and forwards. We saw something like that on the Abomination figure that I showed a while back. You can check that video out. But it really just gives like a widened range of motion in the shoulder area. Like a butterfly wing. So here are the butterfly joints. You can sort of see, I'll put them at center here. And what you're gonna see is a little folding out, just like that. It is not exaggerated by any stretch of the imagination. And I don't know, function-wise, if it's going to be especially useful. It may help with the expanding of the chest in order to hold the width of the neutrino wand, which was something that I mentioned a moment ago was kind of a problem, that his hands couldn't quite get wide enough to have it forward. So with that extension in the shoulder, we might be able to do that. But this is a very, very slight extension. But kudos to the person who noticed that. You can really see it in the back when you hunker forward. Because as you guys know, going through points of articulation is kind of my thing. It's really important to me, so for me to miss one is just, when I realized it would have driven me crazy if I ever did, so I'm super grateful to the person who pointed that out to me. So moving on, now we're into the abdomen and chest. I am just in love with the way that they've done the patches, the way they've stayed so true to the design of this figure. It's spot on. It's got their name stitched onto it. They've got their Ghostbusters shoulder patch. I've talked about this each and every time, that the jumpsuit is clearly a jumpsuit that is worn over clothing, so it's bulky and puffy looking. And because of the proton pack accessory fitting on the back, we don't have that movement in the abdomen that we sometimes get in the chest area, the forward and back motion. But we do have a little bit in the waist, a little bit back, a little bit forward, and 360-degree turn. Then in the legs, we've got pretty decent lateral motion, honestly. We've almost got a Chinese split there. Forward. And we've got the turning in the thigh, 360 degrees. The double jointed knees, which I've said this each video, are always very stiff and I kind of have to really work them. And the knees for me on these are funny looking. And again, this is probably because it's a jumpsuit that's meant to look like it's over clothes, but there's something very robotic and strange, not human, about the way these knees look. But if there's a better way to do it, we might see that in the future with the pinless articulation Hasbro's working on. But for now, this is what we've got, so it works and I'm happy with it. The boots themselves don't turn at the ankle. You know I'm a boss for that. And right here, we've got a toe that bends back, a little bit forward. This is it, sort of flat, and a ball and socket ankle joint that turns in the way that it should. So again, this is another really good looking figure. I think of all 4 of the Ghostbusters figures, the Winston figure, body-wise, is the most perfect. So every accessory that he came with fits his body perfectly. His proton pack sits perfectly. His harness fit perfectly over his torso and snapped perfectly. You know, everything just seems to work really well with him. And going through the points of articulation, discovering the butterfly joint and seeing that was really great. I am just really happy. This is probably, of the figures themselves, the figure that I'm most happy with from top to bottom. I think that he will display the best. I love the blast accessory. I wish that we had this with all 4 figures though. I wish they had scaled this down just a little bit and given us 4 blast accessories. Well, like I said, I'll probably find a way to end up with 4 of them one way or another. But overall, this is a really outstanding figure. And as I said in the beginning of this video, I feel that Winston really rounds out this plasma series for me. We do have 2 more figures and our BAF, but as far as the team being assembled, I think that this is a great way to finish it off. He's a really nice looking figure, and they have not missed the mark on a sculpt as far as the face goes yet. So we have a lot to look forward to in the final 2 figures. All of that said, friends, let me know what you guys think of the Plasma Ghostbusters figures so far, Plasma Series Ghostbusters figures so far. I think Hasbro is really kind of knocking it out of the park on these. I really love that they're a little bit more mattified and not as shiny as some figures that I've seen in the past. And that was something I was talking about in the comments recently too. Let me know what you think about these in comparison to other Ghostbusters figures you've seen. We will be getting into some of our creepier figures in the next video, which I will be posting tomorrow. And if you guys have any requests, comments, questions, or notice anything that you think I need to be corrected on, I'm always open to that. Please comment below and I will answer any questions and correct anything I need to correct. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will be back tomorrow with another one, and thanks for watching, friends. Bye.